On today's worksheet, you have a whole bunch of questions to answer, and I'm going to give you time to do it. There are a couple things I want to explain before we get there. Number one is not talking about the curve, but the window, like the calculator window, right? What's the difference between f of 2 and f of x equals 2? What is that first one saying? The first one is saying when x equals 2, then y equals what? And the second one is saying, what does x equal when y equals 2? Okay? So f of a number means when you plug in x, what do you get for a y? And f of x equals a number means what x value will give you that y. Okay? I do want to point out on number 9, there is an equal to. We've never had that before on that sort of problem. And then 17 through 20, what's the difference between an absolute and a relative max or min? Nobody knows? I was afraid of that. So let's say we had this graph. This would be called the maximum, the absolute maximum. That is the point that's bigger than all the others. Well, this is also a maximum, but because it's not the overall maximum, we call it a relative maximum. Okay? Does this graph, wait a minute. Does this graph have a minimum? It has a relative min, but not an absolute min. This would be a relative minimum, but the graph is going to go down to infinity, so there is no absolute minimum. Then it would have a minimum. You could write infinity. Yeah, or you could say no minimum. Yeah, they kind of just mean the same thing. Depends on who you talk to, really. All right, I'm going to give you time to work on that, and then we'll talk about all the problems together, and then we'll do a book assignment. All right, so looking at the graph, what is the viewing window? What are the x values? -8 to 6, counting by ones. The y values? -10 to 8, counting by ones. X-intercepts? -6, -2, and 4. That's where the graph crosses the x-axis. Y-intercepts? And it can only have one, -8. If it has 2, then it's not a function. So, next question, number 4. Is this graph a function? Well, it says function question mark. Yes. Yeah, that function is really nasty. I don't even know what it would be. Okay. Number 5. Right. So, number 5, the function goes from -7 until 5. And Jackson, can you tell your friend to turn around so she can pay attention? Turn all the way around. There we go. So it looks like this. -7, 5, parenthesis, bracket. Keep going. Keep going. All right, the range. -9 to 7, and they're both brackets. How do I know that it's a bracket down here? It didn't tell me otherwise. It's always a bracket unless it says that it's an open circle. Okay? Number 8. Where is f of x less than 0? What is that really asking? When is the graph negative? That's all it was asking. So there are 2 negative pieces to this graph. What is the interval of x for that first piece? -7 to -6. Does -7 count? No, because it's an open circle. Oops. Does -6 count? No, because it's on the x-axis, which is 0. So that's what the first piece would look like. What does the second piece look like? -2 to 4. Are either of those included? No, because they're both on the axis, so they don't count. All right, number 9. Where is f of x greater than or equal to 0? Does that mean positive? Hang on. Does this mean positive? No. Right, because there's an equal to. So it's all positive numbers and 0. So that changes things a little bit. So it's greater than or equal to 0 on those two intervals. So the first one is -6 to -2. Do those points count? They both do, because they're both on the axis. So if I said, when is the graph positive, how would that change things? They would both be open parentheses. All right? The second piece, 4 to 5. Do either of those count? 4 does. What about 5? 5 is a closed circle, so it counts. All right? Number 10. What is the value of y when x equals 2? So right here, -8. What is the value of f when x is -5? 3. Number 12. How many times does the line y equals 2 intersect the graph? 3 times. If I go up to y equals 2 and I draw a horizontal line, I touch the graph 3 times. Yes? You want me to dance a jig? Good, because I don't know how. Okay. Number 13. What is the value of x when f equals 4? So I need to draw a line at y equals 4, and I have two answers. What are those x values? -4, and we're going to guess 4.5. And without the function, we can't be totally sure. But today, we're just going to look at the graph and call it close enough. Even when we do the book assignment, if the numbers are nasty, we're just going to say, hey, it looks like this, and we'll call it good. That was 13, yes. What are those x's? -4 and 4.5. 14. Where does f of x equal -5? Well, I actually have 3 of them, right? But this one doesn't count because it's an open circle. So those x's are 3 and -1. Ooh, 15 is tricky. What is f of -1 minus f of 2? F of 2 is -8. F of -1 is -5. So what's -5 minus -8? 3. So we have -5 minus -8, which is just +8, which is 3. What is 3 times f of 1? Well, f of 1 is the minimum at -9. -9 times 3 is -27. What is the absolute maximum of this graph? 7. The highest value is a 7. Does it have a relative or absolute min? -9. Okay. Does it have a relative max? Yeah, there is a relative max right here at 4. Does it have a relative min? Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, let's look at this value. So what is the relative min really close to that open circle? Go the other way. 4.9. So negative 4.9. Is there a smaller one than 4.9? I could add a couple nines. Right, but as soon as I put repeating, then it equals negative 5, and negative 5 doesn't exist. So what is the smallest value? It doesn't have one, which is really weird. This is what we call a bounded set, meaning there is a number smaller than the set. So you would assume that the set would have a minimum, right? Except anytime you have an open circle, there is no minimum. Because you can keep putting nines on there, and if you stop putting nines, then there's always a number smaller. But if you put nines forever, then it equals the 5, therefore not working at all. So even though it stops, it has a bound, it does not have a minimum. So there is no relative minimum in this case. There isn't one, right. Okay, 21. Where is the graph increasing? So it's increasing from here to here, and it's increasing from here to here. So negative 7 to negative 4, do we include either of those? Well, the left side is an open circle, and the right side is it going up or down? Neither, it's flat. So it's also a parenthesis. That's a y value. So this piece on the right side is from 1 to 5. Is it going up or down at 1? Flat, parenthesis. Is it going up or down at 5? It is going up at 5, so it's a bracket. All right, 22. Where's the graph decreasing? So it would be everything in between those. Negative 4 to 1. Do we include either of those? No, we don't. Okay. And number 23. What does it mean to be 1 to 1? I told them earlier. So this is basically saying, does the graph have an inverse that is a function? And if you remember back to last year, an inverse means we draw a 45-degree line, and we fold everything over that 45-degree line. So we would get something like this. Is that a function? No, it's not. Because that actually hits the graph 3 times. Well, we didn't even need to do all of that work. All we needed to know was, does it pass the horizontal line test? No. So this graph is a function, but it is not invertible, which means it's not 1 to 1. Yes. This will be about half. Well, part. What we've done so far in this chapter is half the test. Yeah, turn this in. Okay, you're going to be working on page 94. So take a look at 94. So if you look at page 94, so take a look at page 94. You're only going to do the odds today. So I want you to graph them on your calculator. We're not ready. Maybe we'll do all of them. Then be quiet. So notice F and G were not on the worksheet we just did. End behavior, all you do is, as x approaches infinity, then y approaches, and you need to figure out which way it goes. Up or down, or doesn't exist, or 0. And then the second one, As x approaches negative infinity, then y approaches what value? Okay? And then symmetry. Does it have symmetry? Can you fold it and have it land back on itself? The one above? This has symmetry right here. No, we're just going to do the odds. Yep. So go through, answer each of those. Only do the odds. And if the numbers end up being decimals, I don't really care. So if the maximum is 5.1 and it looks like 5, let's just call it 5 and move on. Okay? So don't do any calculations. Just look at the graph and figure out the numbers that way. All right? Now, you might look in the back of the book and you'll have an answer of 6 and theirs will be 6.2, whatever. I don't care. All the graphs that I give you will have simple maximums and minimums and everything else. This is page 94. Well, you just look at your calculator and just use your calculator to find it. Yes, draw a quick graph. Okay. Good luck.